My next guest is a husband, a father, the author of 3 books, and a financial planner here in Norfolk, Nebraska. Adam, thanks for making the time to be here today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Looking forward to it.
No problem. I'm Zach Miller with my co-host Vance Neidig,
Glad to be here. Glad to have a good conversation with you.
and we are touching base with Adam Olson today. So Adam, again, thanks for, I know we've been talking about it for a couple weeks and finally got some time.
Yeah, finally got it down.
That's great. So early life for you, I guess I don't remember for sure where you're originally from.
Atkinson. So I grew up in Atkinson.
That's okay. That's what I thought.
Not too far away.
Yeah. So you went to high school there and everything?
Yep. Grew up in high school, lived in Atkinson,
Good.
college in Iowa at Northwestern, Norfolk ever since.
In Atkinson or outside of Atkinson? Ranch life or
Yeah. Well,
city life?
I grew up
Town
working
life?
on a farm, so my dad's
Okay.
a farmer.
Yep.
But we grew up like a mile outside of town,
Gotcha.
pretty much in town.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Battle Creek, but a mile outside of Battle Creek, but I consider we were on a farm. We obviously raised cattle and everything. So, but yeah, just you're in town. You can ride your bicycle to town, so it counts.
Yep.
Did you play sports in high school?
Yeah. So I did. I would say I was mainly focused on basketball. Tried cross country more or less to stay in shape, and then track too.
You're pretty good at basketball. Did you go to college for
I
basketball?
played a few years in college. Yeah, but you know how it is in a small town growing up. I mean,
You're
kinda
the
play
best.
everything. Yeah. I mean,
you
I
were
wasn't
you
the
were, you were
best,
pretty
but
good. They're still pretty good, however you want to call it.
I try to get up and down.
Yeah. Did you go on to college on a scholarship? Did you go for something specific?
Dude, college was a flip of a coin for me. I mean, I really didn't know what I wanted to do while I was there. And thank goodness I fell into what I fell into. But yeah, had a little academic scholarship, a little athletic scholarship, and that's how I ended up there.
That's great. Did you? I guess. What made you choose that college? I guess.
Well, one was I wanted to play basketball in college. Like, when you're young, for some reason, then still I thought like that was all I cared about was basketball.
Well, we all thought we were going to make the NBA.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's still in college. That's probably in the back of my mind. Like, this is all I'm going to do for my whole life is play basketball. But that was one of the major reasons I went there was because I got recruited to play basketball there. It's one of the few schools that I got offered a scholarship from, and then my brother went there as well. So
really?
My brother was already
Your
in school there. When
older
I went there.
brother?
Yeah. Yeah, so he was 2 years older than me.
Okay.
How many siblings do you have? Just.
Older brother, younger sister.
Oh, okay. I guess I never knew that.
Yep.
That's awesome. So, did you guys? How much older?
He was 2 years older than me.
So, did you get to play with him then?
We played together in high school, and then kind of the same as me, he played a couple years in college too.
Okay.
So like it was an NEI school. I guess it's pretty common for guys to play a couple years of JV.
Yep.
And then it's kind of like I have other things to do with my life. You kind of figure that
Yeah.
out, and then you move on from there.
Right. That's
Kind of
really cool.
realize that it's not going to keep going. So it's like, why waste my time doing this?
Probably not going to pay the bills for the rest of my life, so got to figure something else
Yeah.
out.
So, when did you meet Katie then?
So we met actually. She grew up in O'Neill, like 20 minutes from Atkinson.
Okay.
It's not that far, but
Right.
we didn't meet until we were in college.
Oh.
So we kind of met through one of my mutual friends, Tyler. And then we started dating right when she got out of high school. She was in college and
You
got
had,
married.
you had to move 4 hours away to meet.
I guess that's the way it works.
That's
Who knows?
crazy.
She's
Yeah.
Small
younger
world,
though.
though.
She's
Oh,
younger
okay.
though. So she
Gotcha.
would have been a freshman when I was a senior. So
Oh, yeah,
little
that's,
bit younger
that's a
than
little
me.
bit different.
yeah.
Now, 4 years is not a big deal when we're our age, but when you're in high school, that's a big difference.
Yeah. Really big difference.
So you guys, okay? So you met college, and then what brought you to Norfolk?
Well, I graduated college in 2011.
Right.
And when I graduated college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I really didn't know what direction I wanted to go. So my senior year of college, I did 2 internships, and then I farmed with my dad. So I would say my fail-safe plan was go back and farm with my dad. And he had a galvanizing plant and a manufacturing plant at the time. I would have had a fine opportunity going back home.
Right.
But looking back now, I would say fortunately, the first year I farmed with my dad, I lost $10,000. So I was buying futures. I had
Right.
my own quarter that I farmed, and I get to the end of the year at tax time, and it's like you lost $10,000. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. I was like, I spent a whole year doing this,
Right.
and I lost money. And a farmer's mentality is like, some good years, some bad years. And I was like, that is not for me.
Right.
So I scratched that. Then I had an internship at a hospital, like an HR internship, and then an internship with Primerica, an insurance company. and I really took to the insurance company. I really like that one. I like the sales aspect of it. You know, you eat what you kill kind of thing. Interviewed with Mutual here in Norfolk and got offered a job there.
That's awesome. And you've been there ever since, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Ever since. Yep.
So kind of we'll get into a little bit more of that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're kind of a big outdoorsman.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So-
Love, you know, things kind of slow down with kids a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, if I could hunt and fish every weekend, that'd be ideal, but it's kind of few and far between now with little kids in the house.
I was gonna say, are you gonna be? Because they're how old now?
So my oldest is 6. I would say he's probably before I can like take him and he can like go and do stuff.
Yeah.
I'd say he's probably another 2 years before hunt. I mean, I take him like ice fishing for a
Right.
couple hours and he does fine with that. Boat fishing, he does okay with that.
He's not on the like let's sit and wait for a deer type of thing yet. Not even.
No.
I know he can't shoot yet, but
Patience.
I know some of them.
I tried taking my middle one deer hunting this year and it was a nightmare. Like I don't think there was a deer within 5 miles of us.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm that way. I despise. I have a hard time with hunting and fishing because I'm a patience guy. I just can't do the patience. To me is just my brain just goes crazy.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, it's boring, but like the thing about ice fishing is cool is you can be sitting with a couple buddies, just in a tent hanging out. You know, I like to goose hunt too. I like to duck hunt. That's really fun
And that's more of a group thing too. Isn't
yeah.
it?
Like usually it's my brother and my dad. Maybe somebody else goes with us, but yeah, it's just nice to be outside and shooting something's always fun too.
Do you have a main spot where you kind of go to do all that?
It's kind of all over the place. So my dad and my brother, I would say anywhere around Atkinson, kind of like Butte.
Yep.
We go up in there. Yeah.
Awesome. Have you done any like big travels like up to Canada or
And I don't really
Montana?
have a desire to do that either.
no?
I would much rather, like my dream would be to have some property of my own
Right.
that I can like manage how I want and like close to where I live. So it's not,
Like a huge trek to get there.
yeah, it's not a 2-day deal to get to your property and hunt. You know, that's more of my dream is having something of my own that I can manage.
Not getting dropped off on an Alaskan island
No.
with a couple bears and some moose and just see what happens.
Not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. You know, the other thing too is I really like work.
Right.
You know, and I mean, we take vacations, Katie and I do, but I mean, like, you can only do so much of that. I really like my schedule. You know, I love what I do, and that's why I want to have something close where I could take a half a day here or there, or just on a Saturday or something and do that kind of deal.
You and I have kind of a good career that we are in. We can kind of come and go when we please. And
Oh, heck yeah.
it's a very flexible
Yeah.
schedule. We're kind of making our own deal.
Dude, and with technology, what can't you do
Right.
from wherever you are anymore? It's wild.
Right. Agreed. I know you're very focused on like health and fitness.
Yeah.
Where did that discipline come from? Is it always been that way? Have you always been in really good shape?
Yeah, so I always enjoyed it. Like when I grew up, I was a super heavy kid when I was young.
Okay.
So like I would say probably when I was I really didn't grow out of my baby fat, whatever you want to call it, probably until like the 7th grade. So I was a pretty heavy kid. And you know, I don't know if that's stuck with me since then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you didn't want to go
'Cause you
back
didn't
to
want
that?
to go back to that.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's it, but dude, if I don't work out like something every day, I am just not a good person. So I have to do something every day.
Like you have to like get your like frustrations out type of thing? Or
Yeah,
just
just mentally, I think as long as my body's moving, I'm doing something, I feel really good. You
Those
know,
endorphins start
Yeah.
hitting a little bit more.
yeah. And so I don't know if I've always enjoyed working out, whether it's lifting.
Yep.
I don't play basketball anymore after last year messing up my knee for the 3rd time. I hung it up.
You decided that's enough, huh?
Yeah, that
Well,
was
you made it
enough.
longer than I did, so I had to hang it up in like 2015. I tore my ACL or my Achilles and couldn't play anymore. I just couldn't do it again.
Yeah, you know, and I thought I'd miss it a lot more, but I don't.
Yeah, I miss the camaraderie and the competition, but I don't miss the getting bodied by you.
Well, sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah.
No, I there's a few. I'd say that usually we have a group of anywhere from like 4 to 8, 10 guys that we do group fitness stuff Mondays and Thursdays at the Y. So I kind of have that now.
Well, so you still kind of have the same type of thing, just
Yeah.
not as crazy.
Yeah, I mean we're not competing, but
So what do you guys do? Like you saying group fitness? What kind of
like circuit stuff.
Yeah.
I would say it's like sled pushes in the summertime outside, tire hits, that kind of stuff.
You do a lot at home though too, right?
Yeah. So we were talking before we hopped on here, we just moved here, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, something like that. I put a home gym in. I mean, it's nothing crazy. I just got, dumbbells up to 90, pull up, bench, kind of everything you need though. And I started doing it from home in the mornings, and I really like it.
Makes it a lot better. You're not having to like rush somewhere and
or if the kids wake up early,
right.
They'll come out in the garage and hang out, so they're not waking my wife up early.
Right.
But, I still go Mondays and Thursdays to the Y. But yeah, I got a nice little setup at home that I've really enjoyed.
And you got the big tire.
Yep.
Do the sledgehammer. I saw you that day. I was out there. My parents were looking at the house across the street with the pool and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's where you used to live, was that? Or is that where you live now?
That's where we live now.
We
lived just across the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the tire, you were out there just killing it. It's cool where'd you get the tire from?
Just an old farm tire.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Look like you're having fun. Your son was out there trying to do stuff with you.
Yeah. I try to
give him a mini sledge.
They get a bat, plastic bat to hit with. Yeah, I don't know. That's the other thing too about having the home gym. I don't think it's a bad thing if the kids see.
No,
it's a good influence.
Hey, yeah, it's a good thing to get up and work out in the morning.
Mm-hmm. It's a good role model.
Yeah.
We got a home gym at our house, and that's more of a mental or a thing for me. I just can't. I walk by the thing 30 times a day, and I just don't go in there. I don't find the time to do it. It's just one of those things. I have the time. I just don't force myself in there and do it.
But it's one of those deals. You do it for, I don't know how many days it takes, but
you get that.
It's just the way it is.
Habit. Yeah.
Like I feel wrong if I wake up and don't do something.
I feel like you cheated yourself probably a little bit.
Yep.
Do you stick to like a certain diet at all? Like a diet plan or like certain foods? Like there's certain foods you stay away from?
I would say I just try to eat clean. I just try to eat a clean diet. Like I'm not a big fast food guy, not a big sweet guy. I just try to eat clean.
Do you go for like a go-to for like a sweet tooth if you ever do have it?
Not really.
No, you just don't. You just born
I
without
eat
one?
sweets. Don't get me wrong. I eat sweets all the time, but nothing like I got to have this ice cream or something like that. Yeah,
that's good. That's one of my downfalls is
sweet tooth.
Yeah, sweet tooth. So I try to find little things that are more healthy that kind of keep it away.
Yeah,
I find mine with convenience.
Yeah, convenience
is my killer. Like I'll just try to find something that's fast and easy. Yeah, it's just so much easier. Coming. I worked till 10 o'clock or something, say, and then I got to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning the next morning. Like I have no desire to cook something healthy. I'm just gonna grab something, go home, go to bed, which is unhealthy probably. You're not digesting anything. It's like. But it's just one of those things you just get, again, you just got to force yourself to do it. And that's my biggest downfall of anything is just convenience of eating food.
I would say, though, I think my metabolism is pretty fast, to be real honest with you.
Yeah.
It's like when I hurt my knee, I've never really tracked calories before. And I started tracking calories on, I can't remember the app, MyFitnessPal or something something like that. Something like that where you type in your food and everything. Yep. And I think it was like, for what I was at, like the average calories was like 3,000 or something like that is what you should have. And I started tracking mine for a while, and I was averaging like 5,000 plus calories.
I was going to say you're probably at like 6 to 7.
Way over that. And so, maybe I'm just lucky with a fast metabolism.
Well, and you work out a lot too. You got to feed. Yeah. You got to feed the body for recovery. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do your workouts every day.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
we just had Sam Moore at the Y, and he was telling us about the type of stuff he eats just to keep his build. And it's like,
he's a big dude.
Oh, he's a big man.
How did he do at the meet he was just at?
He was second in his weight class.
Second overall.
That's awesome.
That was the world's meet. He broke 3 state records
for Nebraska.
While he was there.
Jeez.
Yeah, he did. He did 1,658 pounds total.
Bench, squat, deadlift.
Yep. And then the guy above him was at like 2,000, and we're like, oh, that's a big.
Holy cow!
It's a big gap.
Second and first was that big of a gap, and I'm like, that other guy was probably juicing a little bit.
1,600 pounds and weighed 240. Like that's insane awesome to me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So he did a lot of weight.
He was that was fun to do that one. A lot of people don't know that, That's why we're kind of doing this podcast to kind of get people in town to kind of know the person we're bringing on.
Yep. That is awesome. Yeah, I saw something in the paper, just a quick headline about it, but I never dug into that to see how he did.
Yeah, I never even knew he was there until we had that conversation with him.
Yep. Yeah. So going back to the diet, I know you've kind of sworn off alcohol a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about that and the why behind that?
I mean, I'll still drink from time to time. Don't get me wrong about that. But I don't know. I feel like when I had my kids,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I, maybe it was a little bit before that too, but every time I would drink, I would make not like horrible decisions,
Right,
but like maybe I'd eat bad food.
Right.
Maybe I'd stay up too late. And then it'd stay with me for
It's kind of like a domino
day
effect.
or 2 days.
Yeah, I feel you there.
It's not like in college where I could go out and the next
Bounce
day,
back.
shoot, on my 21st birthday, basketball practice the next morning, and you're fine. You know what I mean?
And then your kids are up.
Yeah.
They didn't go out drinking.
That's
so
exactly
they're
right.
up right bright and early and ready for you.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
don't know what you're doing.
Shoot, nothing wrong with drinking. I'll drink from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just, I've kind of found that few and far between is better for me.
Yep.
I commend you for that, though. It takes, I mean, I don't try to drink too much, but we sit here and have a few beers when we're doing the podcast. And, we enjoy it from time to time, but I do commend you for taking that leap. And
yeah, and I mean, with work stuff, a lot of, I don't know if I want to say it's weird if you don't, but like a lot of social stuff has to have alcohol at it.
It's a customary thing in a sales environment or
I
a
don't
meeting
always like
environment.
that about it's supposed to be that
different.
way especially in our field. You go out for drinks.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you get asked. So
Yeah.
I've been trying to start to like, hey, let's go for coffee. Let's go get lunch. Like,
Yep, something different.
yeah.
Yeah, no, every time you want something to drink, no. I'm like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right.
It's okay. I just don't
I'm good.
want it.
I just don't want anything to drink.
I used to be that guy about 5 years ago. What do you mean you don't want something to drink? And I really changed. I've changed my mindset on a lot of that because I feel it too. Because I turn down stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And like, I'm good. Like, especially if we're talking about anything important, or I don't want to be clouded.
Yeah.
No,
100%. Yeah, I would say few and far between.
it probably helps your health too. I mean, you probably can stay in some pretty
better.
good shape.
I just feel better when I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just feel better.
better workouts too, probably.
Yeah, that is for sure.
So going back to the financial planning, getting into your career.
Yeah.
When did you know that was your like path you were for sure going to do? I know you got the job here in town, but when did you know that it was like, I want to do this forever?
It was honestly probably about 3 years in, to be real honest with you.
Because it's a tough.
Oh, dude, it sucks. I mean, you're first getting started. I tell young people all the time, there's a lot of new agents that come in the business and, they reach out to somebody for advice, or, you just talk to them, see them at events, or they reach out to you wanting to chat. Shoot, my first year, I made $22,000 gross.
Right.
You're self-employed.
Right.
Like that was my gross income the first year. And, luckily I kind of did okay. That was enough for me as a single guy right out of college. I was okay doing that.
Yep.
But then my third year is really when it took off, and, a light kind of switched. I was like, okay,
There's
like,
something here.
yeah, I can do this.
That's what a lot of people don't realize when it comes to anything in the insurance field, whether it's financial planning, life insurance, P&C insurance. Those first few years are like the first year I was in it, I barely made anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're putting it into the business, you're putting it, marketing and things like that. It's definitely a tough stretch. So it's awesome you stuck through it.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy.
Mm-mm.
And especially when you could go out and get a job, shoot, working at a bank, an office job, and you would have made way more than that the first couple of years.
But there you're collecting a paycheck as opposed to earning your own money. It's kind of a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've heard a lot of people talk about, like, don't get paid. Don't take a paycheck. Make your own money, which is kind of the same thing. But like once somebody pays you, they're paying you for your time, not for anything else, not what you can really bring them in a way. Like,
100%.
But I've also noted in you're a competitive guy. So we're all competitive people, and we've had more of that on the podcast too, where you wanted to probably create your own path, your own business. You wanted to grow your own thing instead of being in an environment where it was like, oh, I'm just going to work here. I'm going to do their stuff. And
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I have a problem with authority, but like
I'm right there with you.
I just kind of like to do my own thing.
Yeah.
Like even when I look back at like coaches and how I would interact with them, I would say I probably wasn't the best team player a lot of the times. And, this career, when I first got started, at least it was all on your shoulders. And that was something that I liked.
yeah.
that I didn't have to rely on you or you to do something. It was all on me.
If I fail, I fail. If I win, I win.
Yeah, that's something I kind of like too. But then, as things have developed, we've learned a lot in our business, and in order to make things big enough, in order to accomplish the goals that we have, it does take a team. Like, it's at some point, if your goals get big enough, like they should, it's going to take a lot more than just you to make things happen.
Oh, for sure. That's the same thing here. I couldn't do what I do without staff.
Yeah.
Doing
100%.
the everyday service work, and when we're out there trying to help the customers, there's got to be somebody back there doing the day-to-day stuff.
Yep. And it's not like, it's not like we don't have, I have thousands of bosses. I mean, all of my clients, I answer to them.
Right.
If I don't do a good job, they're going to fire me.
Exactly.
So you do have to answer to people. But I would say about 3 years in is when I kind of hit my stride. And then we formed our partnership shortly after that as well. So that's kind of when things started turning the corner, and it turned more into a business rather than just a salesman.
Or a job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Business.
Yeah, I would say it that way.
That's good. Did you have any hurdles that you faced in the pursuit to get your licenses, your designations?
Yeah. So it's probably been, I think 2 years ago, I got my CFP, which is Certified Financial Planner. Not easy, right? It was hard. And I had previously started that 4 years before that I had tried. And so 4 years before that, I tried starting that course, and I started in the taxes part or something, the first one. Horrible. Was failing all the practice exams, and I just threw it in. I was like, forget it.
Yep.
I don't need this. But then 2 years later, it kept nagging at me, kind of like the podcast deal you were talking about.
Yeah.
It was nagging at me. And it's like, it's not that hard. Study for it, figure it out, get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, 2 years after I originally failed, I started back into it, took it a lot more seriously, and finally passed the thing.
For the listeners out there, can you walk through going from bottom to no licenses at all, what it took, how many tests, how many things it took you to get to that last final test?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't know that. I know, but there's a lot of people that don't know.
Yeah, it's I would say easier said than done for a lot of people. So when you first get started, when I first got started, you have to take a 6 and 63 to do basic mutual funds. Then you have to take a Series 65 to actually manage money. And then I've also got my Series 7 so we can do individual stocks as well. And then I moved on to some designations. And the designations, I would say, they're not necessary to do your job, but it's very, very beneficial for me as an advisor because I have a larger knowledge base so I can help my clients.
Right. And it looks good after your name.
Yeah, and it looks good after your name. So I've done a few of those. And the toughest one by far was the CFP exam, which is it's pretty an intense process. I guess I'll say it that way.
For sure. So I have my 6 and 63.
Nice.
That's because I've got the PNC side, the life side, all that other stuff.
Yep.
So I haven't had that, but my goal is to at least get the 7 at some point.
Yeah, that one was a bear too.
I'm sure it was a bear just to do the 6. I commend you for as far as you've gotten, because just doing the 6 and 63 was enough for me to be like, okay, I need to hold off.
Let me sit with this one for a minute.
Yeah.
So I don't know this side of it, and a lot of listeners might not either. So, you had a hard time at 4 years ago. You had a hard time. 2 years it got easier. Do you think part of that is to kind of just experience in the field, even though you don't have it, you're around it, so you see it a lot more. It's understandable a little more.
100%.
You pick up a lot more of that stuff, kind of like where he did the 6 and 63, and then. I mean, he's just spending more and more time, so eventually he's going to be. I think this is going to be easy to go to this 7 level, and it's going to be easier to go to this level.
100%. Yeah, the more you're in it, the more you have a base knowledge of it.
Yep.
The more you're dealing with it day in and day out, and that does help with the base knowledge.
Just the nuance type stuff.
Mm-hmm. Are you a study guy? Are you good at studying and regurgitating like that, or are you more of I need to do it, be in it?
I would say I'm a hands-on learner.
Right,
I would say it that way.
I'm the same way. So studying for those tests has been the worst. I hate studying for any kind of test. I need to be in it. Somebody needs to show me visually how it kind of gets put together.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I ain't gonna.
Yeah, I just read a book, and there's like a personality quiz that you take with it. And my personality was called a cheetah. He like has animals that he puts with it. And it was like you have to have a fast pace, and you're like, if you start something, it has to be finished. And so like to go along with that, it was talking about like reading and reading comprehension and speeding up your reading pace. And the gist of it was like it's kind of like a 20-minute on, and like that should be it. Like so for me and what I do, if I want to comprehend something and stick with it, do it for 20 minutes, review back what I read, and then teach it to somebody too.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, actually, because I learn a lot by teaching too. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you.
that's fine.
Go ahead.
I was just picking up on the high reading comprehension. So your high reading comprehension and read fast is what you're saying.
Yeah, it was like on speed reading more or less.
That's kind of where I am. I don't go back and reread it, and then I'm a terrible teacher. And I've admitted that to everybody. I can learn something really well, be really high at it. Whatever it is, I hate failure. Whatever I'm going to try to learn, I'm going to try to do the best I can. And then I have a really hard time training or teaching because I don't have again, we go back to that patience thing. Mm-hmm. I do that one time, 2 times. The third time I tell you, in my brain, I don't comprehend. I'm like, I learned this the first time. How is it taking you the 4th time I tell you? Like, it's just one of those things. And it's a terrible thing for me. And I know I fight through that in my position all the time because I have to train these people. And I know if they fail, I've failed them because I need them to get better. So that's on me to learn how to get to that point. And I have a hard time with that.
Yeah. They say like the average consumer understands at the 4th grade level.
That's true.
Like, so when we're conversing about whether it's a financial topic or whatever it is, like it should be like you're talking to a 4th grader. It should be that simple for people to understand.
I had to learn that over my first year of being in the business. And I'm sure you just said it. So you do the same thing as we have to remember that, which is also why I told him to explain the designations and the licenses.
Yep.
Because you, like, in your head, you're like, I'm going to explain this. It's going to be just fine. Mm-hmm. And they look at you when you're done talking, like, what did you just say to me? So you really got to, you got to bring it down. I'm not going to say dumb it down, but you got to bring it down to where somebody that has never heard about it before, talked about it before, will understand what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And we have to do that every day. Yeah. And it's crazy.
I draw a lot of pictures in client meetings. I guess I'll say it that way too. We're a visual,
pictures and definitions, defining words that only get used in like certain, like our business, or it's just it's crazy to think about. We do that every day. Yeah. But you do the same thing, having to teach people on the job. Yeah. So it's really the same thing, just a different.
Every field's that way. I mean, if I have somebody, I'd imagine you guys. I clearly know you guys are highly intelligent, but you come in and try to run a laser. It's going to take a minute to I'm going to tell you a word, and you'll be like, you don't know what that is.
You go put us on the line. We aren't going to be able to do nothing.
No. But I guarantee, I also know by knowing you guys that I could spend a day with you, and you're going to understand that. And I don't have to, in my opinion, I don't think I have to dumb it down. So, I might have to for certain people, but and that goes back to the average. But I know with you guys, and that's going to knowing the type of people you're around, reading them a little bit more. I think
I'm a repetition guy. Like I said, I'm very visual, hands-on repetition. That's how I learn.
Yeah, which is why if I watch person one time and let me try it, and then if I fail, I'm going to figure out how I failed and try to fix it myself. Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm more that way.
With your certified financial planner, you said so you just got that recently?
Yeah, I think it's probably 2 years ago. I got it during COVID.
Okay, so that was probably a good time to do it.
Dude,
to an extent.
Like in this exams, like you have to take series exams before you can go sit for the final.
Yep.
And the final is like a 2-hour break, 2-hour. And in these series exams, it was all virtual. They wouldn't let you go in and take the exam. So your office desk had to be clean.
They had to have a proctor. They had to show the camera.
Nothing on the walls, right? So I had to be in a blank office, nothing around, and
I had to check your shoes probably.
I had to stare at that computer screen. You could not blink. Yep. You could not look away. They're on speaker talking to you while you're taking the test.
Really?
Because some you'll think and you'll just like rub your eyes or like you'll look.
What are you looking at? Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? Like, nothing. I'm in a closed off room. Chill.
And how long is this?
Turn the camera around and show me the individual sections. I think they were maybe 100 questions or not super long, so maybe
But still in a
60
in a
to
locked
90
room.
minutes. Yeah.
That's a plain room.
And especially when, there's somebody on there saying, hey, turn the camera around. Wow, come on, man.
So for perspective, the 6 and 63 were each 150, right? I'm pretty sure it was 150. Okay. So then the next, you said the 65.
Yep.
How many was that one?
100 or 200, something like that.
So in general, he's probably had to answer 1,000 questions to get where he's at.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say the amount of people that have passed these exams, there's people that are really, really good at their job. And then there's people that are really, really bad at their job too. Right. I would think it's, having that base level of knowledge is one thing, but then it's a whole nother thing to
practice it
and do it right at a high level. You know what I mean?
Yep, I do.
We've talked about that a lot on GPAs and stuff too. I mean, it's the same concept. There's people with really high GPAs that have just done really well on tests because they studied really well.
Yep.
They did all the extra credit. They did all this, but they're not at the same IQ level as somebody that isn't the highest GPA that you maybe slacked off a little bit or did whatever. But in the long run, is a higher IQ that can do a little bit more stuff. It's kind of the same concept.
There are probably people that pass with a higher score than you that don't know or do as well as you may do in the business.
Yeah, and I'm nothing amazing. But what was funny is when you do the CFP, you have to get your college transcript. You have to get it. And I got my college. I had to call the college, and you got to pay to get your transcript. And I graduated with a 3.2, which
C's get degrees.
So do you have to okay? So you're saying
you had to pay to get a transcript. You've already paid them.
It was $30 or $50 or something. Because they have to send it certified, I think. But yeah, I graduated with a 3 point, which is not great. And I looked back and I was like, what were you doing, man?
So do you have to have graduated to take the CFP?
You have to have a 4-year degree.
Really?
I think you have to have a 4-year degree. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's why they wanted it, because you have to have a 4-year degree. You have to have a 4-year degree, and I believe 4 years experience in the industry in order to sit for it.
Makes sense. It's nothing I'm aspiring to do, but
yeah, and I
didn't realize that.
Just looking back, what were you doing in college? I mean, it's not. I mean, okay. You should be able to get a 3.2. I mean,
I'd much rather probably go see somebody that has a 3.2 than a 4.0.
Yeah,
because then you never know. You just never know. Like I said, people can regurgitate stuff, but then not be able to perform and do those things.
Yeah, my wife showed me a video the other night, and it was, I can't remember who the guy was, but it was some guy talking about a lot of times the C students in the world are the ones that end up being more successful than the A students, because they just don't strictly keep their head down and answer the questions and study. They're kind of daydreaming off, thinking about what could be, thinking about what their future is going to be.
Possibly higher critical thinkers.
Yeah.
You know?
It's the C students that swear.
Yeah.
So they say that swearing often is also a sign of intelligence too. But that's funny.
That's good.
But I've heard that, it's the ones that have the critical. We talk about critical thinking a lot on the podcast too. Is you might be able to go regurgitate all this information, but actually critical think and maybe ask questions about it.
Yeah.
Just because you can take this book that's been passed around forever and regurgitate the information. Well, what if maybe it's not the best way to do it?
Yeah. That's
question things.
Should I talk about that in the book? My little kid's always asking why, and you get sick of it all the time, but people don't do that as they get older. They just say, oh, this is the way it is. Well, why? Right. Why do I have to retire at 70? Why can't I retire at 60?
Right.
Why do I have to do this? Ask those questions.
Yep. That's what we're big proponents of the why. We talked about that in almost every podcast we've done for this. And it's just it's something that isn't done enough in the world anymore, at all, for anything, whether it's talking about government, whether it's talking about your financial plan or your insurance, your anything.
Yeah.
Anything at all.
Ask questions.
Always ask questions.
Just following along blindly doesn't help anybody on anything. You'll never get yourself farther ahead by doing that, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, eventually you're just going to stop. You're going to hit a plateau at some point if you just follow. You got to ask a few questions, and you got to take some lumps on the way sometimes. I mean, sometimes you take the wrong path, and it is what it is, and you learn from it, and you get better, and you learn another way, or you learn another way just taking that wrong path, and you're automatically better for it because it brought it. You found a way that nobody else had really thought of.
Yeah, exactly.
Type of way to do it.
Can you kind of explain to the listeners kind of what you do on a day-to-day basis? Like, what does a CFP do?
Yeah.
What can they come see you for?
So I would say at a base level, what I tell people is I help people make smart decisions with money, right? And so really what that entails is we sit with people, and I'm big on values, right? So usually when I'm first sitting with clients, I have a conversation about what are your values. And so I tell what my values are, my 7 F's: faith, family, fitness, finances, fun, fellowship, friends, right? Those are my values. And when we dig into the values, I like to use money as a tool so I can increase those things in my life personally, right? That's what I want to help you do. Let's figure out what your values are. That'll tie into what your goals are. And then we can talk about how we can use money as a tool to increase those values in your life, because you trade your time for money. We already talked about that, right? You trade your time for money. Let's figure out how we can do it in the most efficient way possible. And then we dig into insurance. We dig into taxes. We get into how much we should be saving. And that's really what we do. We help make clients make smart decisions with their money.
And you can really help anybody that's making a low amount of money to highest amount of money, right?
Yeah. So we have support staff now, so it's not just me. When I first got in the business, there's a lot of people in my industry that have minimums, right? They say, hey, I'm not talking to you unless you have $500,000. I'm not talking to you unless you have $1 million. I'm not helping you. And that's not why I got in the business. When I first got started, shoot, if you had $50, I'd talk to you. And I just feel like that's putting something bad into the universe if you're telling people, I'm too good for you. I'm too good to help you.
It creates a class system at that point.
Yeah, which I get it from a business standpoint, right? I get it. I get it if people do it. But what I have, and we have the support to do it now, is we don't tell anybody no, right? We may have one meeting. I may give you some advice, and then we may go our separate ways, but we can help anybody. And, I'm in our firm, I'm never going to put a minimum on with any of our clients.
Yeah.
That you have to have 100,000 to work with us. No. Like, we'll give you advice. It may not be Adam that you're talking to, but whoever you're talking to in our firm, we'll meet with you. We'll do our best to help you and give you advice on what you should do, and whether you got $50 or $5 million.
Which clearly you stand behind your people too. So you don't have Adam, but you have Adam. Really, in a sense,
it's hard to get some people to understand that, because I do that in my business too, where it's like you might not always get to talk to me because it does take time to do the things that we do. So we can't help. There's only 365 days in a year.
Yep.
So we can only have so much time, and we still got you and I both make time for family.
Yep.
We have other.
Yep.
The podcast. You have other. You're writing.
Yep.
27,000 bucks. Yeah. No, but it's good to have the staff, and if they're knowledgeable, you hired them, like stand behind them, like he said. It's okay to do that.
Yeah, like I said, when I first got started, I'd kill to get anybody, and I feel like now we're at a point where you could tell people no.
Right.
I don't want to do that. If people need help, we'll help them.
Have you ever told anybody no based on values? Like personal values?
I've never really had, and I don't know, you kind of attract who you are, maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you there.
And, so we've had some situations where, maybe we've met with the clients and we give them our 2 cents and they're like, well, no, that's not happening. Great example. We get leads that come in from the company, right? And there was a lead for disability insurance, short-term disability insurance that came in, some gal in like Utah or something like that. And I was emailing her back and forth, and I asked her, hey, are you looking for maternity coverage? Which most time, if a short-term disability, it's maternity coverage is what they're looking for. And she came back with something like, that's sexist of you. Why would you assume that a female at 26 years old needs maternity coverage? Sorry for assuming. It's just like situations like that where they weed themselves out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get that a lot too. I've learned in my years of being in the business that I'm a lot better at saying no. Like maybe we're not the right fit.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that happens.
And it has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with anything else. It could be I've turned away big policies, big things. And it's like our values don't line up well enough together that I don't think that I could help you in the long run.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
No.
For me or for you.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be enjoyable for anybody.
Yeah. So I've learned to be able to do that. And it's tough. It's tough when there's money on the table, but it's like if you're going to build a business for the long run, you got to kind of have clients that kind of line up with the same type of values that you have.
I think that goes back more to like, again, to our time conversation too. That's for in every industry too. Like if you're not going to be happy with your time with me, I'm not going to be happy with my time with you. Why is this a value for either of us? Like we can find somebody else. You can find somebody else. I can find somebody else. We're both going to be more happy. A little bit of money, maybe it's again, what is the value of your time? And a lot of people don't value their time in the correct way. I've noticed, and people just go about they don't think there's other options for their time.
Yep.
Time is the only thing that it's not replaceable. It's gone. Like your time is gone. Like you can make more money. Time, you can't make more time.
It's the most valuable asset there is, right?
Yep. In my opinion, it is. Like it's all there is to it.
Did you have something to add to that? I know you made an eyebrow raise. Was that a little?
No, I'm with you.
Okay,
I just think like Richard Branson says, there's always another bus coming, right? There's always a lot of people out there that need help. So
there's so many people in the world too.
Yeah.
So many people in Norfolk.
Yeah.
I mean, we have so many different.
I was telling you with technology now, it's nothing to work with somebody that's across the country.
Right. So that's what I was going to ask you too. Are you licensed in all 50 states?
No, I don't know how many. Maybe like 9 or 10.
Okay.
Not all 50 states. No.
So since you're with Mutual of Omaha, you have to be kind of but they're in every state, right?
Yeah, and we're kind of. I mean, you're more or less contracted with them, so you're independent. You can do whatever you want. But
I'm the same way.
Yeah, I mean, so wherever you have clients that need help, you get licensed and help them out.
So like I'm relegated to the states that the Farm Bureau Federation that I'm a part of is a part of.
Gotcha. Like a district, our territory.
Yeah, so like all the states have a Farm Bureau Federation. Some of them are just separated from other ones. So like with me, there's 9 states that I can be involved with, but I can't get licensed in another state outside of that.
Oh, interesting. It has to be another Farm Bureau.
It has to be
or whatever
within our federation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it makes it kind of tough when I'm involved in some groups on Facebook and they're like, "Hey, I need help in Arkansas." I'm like, "Wow,
sorry,
I can't really help you in Arkansas. I can help you over here." But and it's we have some good states. We got Arizona, and I can do South Dakota, Iowa, Kansas.
Oh, nice.
Utah, but I can't do like Texas, which is okay because like Texas, Florida, California, I really don't want to touch anyway.
Yeah.
And on the
nine
side,
states is plenty. Like that's a pretty large territory.
Right. And I can't really get to all those places either. So it's like I've got some clients in Arizona only because they're snowbirds.
Second home type of deal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool that you can kind of do what you want. If you can help a client in Washington State, well, you can get licensed.
Go get
and
licensed.
It's easy to do. Once you already have a license, it's easy to get a non-resident license somewhere.
Yeah. I guess the only tricky part is, there's the investment world where you have to do that, and then there's the insurance world where you have to do that. So it depends on how you're working with the client, what you're doing with them, what you have to get.
It's a little more sticky with the investment world, right? Because you have to have there's stipulations to that.
Yeah. I think it's just a little bit more expensive, maybe, to get licensed in those states from an investment standpoint.
Well, every state's different too, as far as how much it.
Yep.
You got Nebraska. Like for me, it's like $50, and then Minnesota's like $350.
Yeah.
So it's just
all over the place.
Yeah, it's crazy how each state's different with that.
Yeah, all over the place.
A key word we use on this show is balance. How did you balance your professional career, writing the books, and keeping time with your family?
Yeah, good question. I think a life is seasons. So before we had kids, I spent a lot of time working, right? Nights, weekends, whenever people could meet. When Katie and I first got married, she actually worked the night shift at the group home for a while. And so, we'd see each other from time to time, but we worked a lot before we had kids. But, It's what we enjoyed doing, and that's just what we wanted to do to set ourselves up. And then once kids came along, that slowed down a lot with our first kid, right? Because you're a parent, and now I really protect my time a lot now. So like it's we don't do evening calls, I don't do evening meetings, I don't do weekend calls, I don't do weekend meetings. Like we're open from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. If you can't find time to make this important decision with me 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, then maybe we're not the best fit. Like if you don't value my time with my family, maybe we're not the right fit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But like stuff like this, whether it's writing, whether it's reading, I'm coming out with the podcast next year. I'll either do it in the morning or at night when the kids go down. If it doesn't work out during the day schedule.
What's that going to kind of be? What do you get? What's the concept on there? Or do you not know yet?
It's a personal finance-based podcast.
Good. That's what I was thinking.
I'm going to be talking about finance. I'm going to mix in some faith stuff. I'm going to record the books, and the books are going to be on there too. Just like an audiobook.
Yeah, I was wondering if you don't have one of those yet, do you?
No, no. And
I should just give you one of these mics and you can just do it here.
Yeah. Lock me in here for 8 hours.
I really wanted to. I was hoping there was an audio version of the book.
It'll be coming out next year on the podcast.
I'll get that too.
Yeah, it'll be coming out next year.
That's
But
good.
no, so that's how I kind of look at balance in my life, right? I have to have my fitness. I like work, so I have to have that. I have to have my family time. And so I just try to structure it in a way that works for me.
Was Katie pretty much all behind you on your work stuff, doing the books?
Yeah, she's
Was
super
there any
supportive.
kind of?
She stays at home. I couldn't do a tenth of what I do, honestly, if she worked.
Right.
Like, you have no idea how stress relieving it is, or how easy it makes life. Like when you come home and like supper's ready, or
Right.
the house is in a disaster, or I got to go grab quick something for supper. Like, no, it's taken care of, which is so nice to have that.
Has she enjoyed that?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. That's kind of what she always wanted to do, was stay at home. And, luckily God's blessed us enough that she can.
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't have it any other way. I guess I'll phrase it that way. And the kids, kids are only home for so long. It goes so fast.
Oh, it's nuts. My oldest is 11, and I'm like, where?
It goes so fast.
When did that happen? You know, it's especially when you get in a career that you work so hard at, and it's kind of crazy how it all just fast. We'll just say fast.
Yeah, and it really, shoot, when you're gone for a week or something, they change. And I feel like you take a lot of that for granted sometimes if you're putting your head down working all the time.
Yeah, I see. Then you really do attest to what you're saying, because you made sure that the time we made for this podcast was after after the family time, and which is great. That's awesome.
So I'm just picking up on. So I don't have my own kids, so but I'm picking up on a little bit. You kind of you're your own boss in a way. Yeah, I mean you have bosses, but you're kind of in your own boss. You're your own boss. My parents were kind of their own bosses. They had jobs throughout their lives, but they always made time to be, their number one job was probably the farm, the livestock and all that, the cows and the calves and all that. But it was something that was a huge upbringing in my life, that they were basically a phone call away at all times. Like no matter what, like the schedule, they were there when we went to school. They were there early in the night. There'd be weekends or days, trips. Dad would have to go to a convention, or dad would be at a show. Mom would be at a show. Mom would be at a convention. And then we'd go with grandma and grandpa or whatever. So that was kind of fun, but it just seems like obviously your dad was a farmer, so he was around all the time. So, do you think that kind of led into that? What you think you wanted to do?
I think so. So growing up, my dad would always take us to school growing up, and like he would always show up in the morning and he'd always grab a piece of toast to go. Yeah. And like it didn't hit me until later in life, or like when I was in high school, that was like his second breakfast. Like he was up at way before that, had breakfast, went and worked for 2+ hours, and then he would come home to get us and grab toast to eat while he drove us to school. And then he always coached his kids in sports. He always coached our basketball teams growing up. And so I think that's something that you're just raised that way, and you're like, no, you're a dad. You're supposed to coach your kids' teams.
Yep.
You're supposed to be there for your kids. And so I don't know if that's because the way I was raised, or, once I had kids, just something clicked that, like, I actually enjoy coaching. Like, I coach the kids' stuff, and a lot of people are like, how do you do that? That's like torture. I'm like, honestly, I enjoy it. Like,
Yeah.
So in basketball this year, I have 2 boys in basketball this year, and they said, hey, we have enough coaches if you don't want to coach a team this year. And I was like, I don't think I can see myself sitting there
Right.
while somebody else is coaching my boy. Like, I just don't think that would, like, something would itch at me to, like, what are you doing, dude? Get out. That's just, I don't know. It's not for everybody, right? Like, that's not the way everybody is, and that's totally fine, but that's just the way I am.
I just thought about that. I don't know if that's the case, but it just seems like maybe it's a nature versus nurture thing. Like, you just grow up that way, and you just kind of assume that that's the way life needs to be.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
We kind of have the same situation. So Kai still works, but she runs a daycare out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So she's home.
Mm-hmm.
The kids got to, my youngest got to stay home until we made sure he went to preschool. It's like, you kind of got to get out of the house and go meet some new kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, not the same situation, but it's nice having to know she's there. She can't really leave, obviously, with the daycare because there's only so many people there, but I can do things now.
Yep.
I take the kids to school every day. I pick them up. And I always make sure that time, like, even my staff knows those times of the day, you can't schedule anything for me.
Yeah.
So
that is nice.
it's fun.
Yeah, that's nice. And, I think that sticks with kids too.
Mm-hmm. The other thing we did, going back to the work thing, is when I took over for Brad, I kept the COVID hours. So we're only open 9 to 4.
That's awesome.
So that my staff can take their kids to school, not have to rush here, and they can still get their kids after school and not have to rush in 5 o'clock traffic.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot more to life than working. Right?
Oh, for sure.
It's part of it. You got to have purpose. I feel like that's a good thing. But yeah, there's a heck of a lot more to life than working 16 hours a day, I think.
Oh, that and they get a lot more done.
Yeah.
They know they're happier.
Yep.
They're not, wasting time during the day. They know they have to get a certain amount of stuff done, or I'm gonna get a little upset, whatever. But yeah, I just think we get a lot of flack for that sometimes. Well, I pulled up at 8 and you weren't up. The hours have been on the door for 4 years. It's just and just going back to clients that. So, and sometimes the naggiest clients are the ones that
have all day.
Yeah, all day. They got all day to just do whatever.
You're retired. Make it work.
And and sometimes you got to train your clients on, hey, set an appointment.
Yep.
I've got a schedule. Mm-hmm. My calendar is full. I've showed him my calendar. Like, my calendar is full every day. I have everything in there, from working out to taking the kids to school to picking the kids up, because the staff, like, my girls make all my appointments.
Yep.
So I got to make sure that I have all my stuff in there that I got to get to every day. So it's a full-time job, just keeping my calendar.
Yeah. It's a good problem to have, though.
That is. It's just getting people to understand you can't just pop in and expect to get time.
Yeah, dude, that's something I've really worked on the last year or so is, hey, it's not Adam on an island. Yeah. Like, these people here know more than I do most of the times.
That's usually the case.
Don't worry about talking to me. Like, I'm helping you today, yes, but also here is this person and this person that does this and this. Just educating people, letting them know.
Yep. And as a business owner, you can't expect people you got to, like I said, educate them. You got to tell them, like, hey, no, here's Julie. She's great at this. Or here's Jenny. She's amazing doing this. Here's Anita. She can help you with anything.
Yep.
I'm just the guy that just sits in this office. Like, they're making the show run.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just getting people to understand that.
And, maybe males, we're not always the best communicators.
Horrible.
Right. And so it just goes to over communicating.
Yeah.
If you've never told people, they don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We assume, we probably assume too much, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. No, 1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Communication is key too in relationships. I'm sure you and Katie communicate a lot, and you guys seem to have a great relationship. I don't know you guys all that
Nobody's
well, but
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
We everybody has problems. Nobody's perfect, but yeah, we try to do the best we can, because it's not, whether it's being on the same page with kids' stuff, right? Whether it's disciplining kids.
Yep.
making sure you're on the same page with that. Yeah, just talking.
It's crazy how you see a lot of couples that maybe don't. You can tell when they don't communicate very well, and they, it's just nice to see, nice to hear communications going on in your world.
Dude, life gets busy though.
It does.
Katie and I talk all the time. Like, can you imagine how life would be if like we both worked?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we could do it. Like, I would be like I would be on edge all the time. I feel like
it's taken a while for me to, because like Kai has a lot of what do you call them, like not seminars, but like different groups that she's involved with daycare. So like, there's like panels that she's on or different things, and just keeping all the schedules. And now that we got the podcast going, it's trying to keep those along the lines of making sure one of us is there for the kids. I've got, my parents are awesome. They're usually a drop of a hat.
That's awesome.
If we need them.
They're still here in town.
Yep, they're here in town. Her mom's here in town, so we're pretty lucky.
I don't get how some people do it where they don't live close to family and they have kids.
I don't get it either. I've got some friends that they have to get a babysitter, like an actual babysitter, every time they go out and do something. I'm like, we've used a babysitter once. Yeah. It's usually grandparents or,
Yeah, it'd be tough. That is for dang sure.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming your parents are still.
Yeah, they still live in Atkinson.
And hers are.
Her grandparents are still around. They live like 2 blocks from us, which is really nice.
Oh, that's perfect.
And then her mom and stepdad live in Stanton, so not far.
Oh, so that's great.
Yeah, it works.
That's good. With you being focused on your health and with your career, do you have any influences or role models in either one of those spaces that you kind of look up to?
Yeah, so I listen to a lot of podcasts and I read a lot of books.
It's good to hear.
And yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so that's where I draw a lot of information and advice from, I guess I would say. I've tried a couple, quote unquote, like coaching groups online, and it just, I don't know, they just haven't worked out for me, I guess I'll say.
Were they more like where you guys met?
Virtually.
Virtually?
Yeah, virtually.
Okay. It wasn't like one of you're typing messages back and forth?
No, it was a virtual one. But like from a business standpoint, we do 2 educational events a year. I'm on an advisory council with Mutual of Omaha, which is nice. So it's like the corporate side, and then they have 6 agents come in as well. So we meet 3 times a year, and they really talk about like big picture ideas of what they want the company to develop into. And so that's been really beneficial from that as well. But yeah, just books and podcasts is really where I get a lot of my stuff from.
What are some of, outside of your own books, what are some books you maybe have read that have made an impact on you?
So, I'm trying to think of some of the most recent ones that I read. That book I just read on speed reading and comprehension was really good. Jim Quick's book. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But I just finished also a book, 10X is Easier Than 2X, which from a business standpoint, I think if you're a business owner out there, that book really, really opened my eyes.
It's not a Grant Cardone one, right?
No.
The 10X deal?
I can't remember the author of it, but yeah, the book was 10X is Easier Than 2X, just talking about like more or less getting the right people in the right spots. And, you can only do so much. You can only focus on so much.
Right.
You got to have people around you to support you.
Right.
And so getting the people in the right seats on the bus more or less is what that one is about.
Was it hard for you to hand off some stuff to people? Was it hard for you to be able to do that? It was hard for me, so I just didn't know if it was.
Yeah, and hard for me to tell the clients because I always say like, hey, I don't want you to feel like I'm putting you off, but I can't. Like, I literally do not have the time to help you with this and do these other things.
Right.
So right now we're trying to get more specialized in what we do, right? So we're not a jack of all trades, master of none. Like, here's your lane, here's your lane, here's your lane. Like, I know enough to tell you basic stuff on these other things, but for specifics, you're going to talk to this person.
And that would probably make people a little more comfortable, I think. If I was coming in as a customer, I want the person. Yeah. I don't want to be bullshitted here. Mm-hmm. Tell me here, And then if I have another question over here, I'll come back to you over here. And then this person is not bullshitting me about this over here.
I think so.
I think that would make me feel really comfortable. Actually, I would enjoy something like that.
Yeah. It
As a
kind of
customer,
goes back
as
to
a
that
consumer.
team approach.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It takes a little humility to do that. Some people wouldn't be able to do that. Like I've known some other, not agents in Farm Bureau, but other agents that'd be like, "Oh, I know everything." I'm like, no,
Nobody knows.
like
everything.
in my office, if it comes up with something with farm, like I didn't grow up on a farm. I'm not going to be able to tell you the ins and outs. I'm learning, right, as I'm going.
Yeah.
But we have experts in the office that know a shit ton more about farms than I do.
Yeah.
So I always bring them in. I'm like, let me bring you my farm expert.
Yep.
Let's do that. Let's get together. Let's do that. And I get a lot more positive feedback when I bring somebody in like that.
Yeah, no, it's kind of the Dunning-Kruger effect. You know, the more you know, the you actually figure out the less you know.
Right.
Right. So it's like when you're first in the business, you think you got it all figured out, and then you get 10 years in, and you're like, oh my, like I know like half of what I need to know. You know what I mean?
You're still learning every day.
Oh,
I'm assuming.
yeah,
I learn every day
heck
too.
yeah.
It's
That, and I think with certain people, it goes a long ways. If you can say, I don't know, but I'll find somebody that does, or I will find that answer for you.
Yep.
I don't like somebody saying, I know, and then I find out later they don't know. That makes me more mad.
Yep.
Whereas if you just say, just be honest with me, like, oh, man, I don't know. And I've done that in my life. It's worked out better for me. Like somebody come ask me a question, man, I don't know, but I can guarantee I can figure the question out, but you're going to have to give me some time. Or this person is the one that I go to, so this is the person you should go to.
Yep.
Type of thing. And I think that that breeds a lot of respect from whoever you're talking to. And it does for me too. If somebody tells me that, I'm like, all right, at least I know he's being honest with me.
Yeah.
Again, honesty goes a long ways. But
Exactly.
That's how I look at it too. I always make sure if I don't know something, I'm not going to try to bullshit an answer because I don't want to be the guy talking in front of you and be like, "Oh, I'll give you an answer," and then you find out a week later I'm just wrong, and then I look like an idiot. And who's going to want to go to that guy?
But then it's really fun if you do that to me because then I can bring it up in a week later.
Well, you. I'm talking about the average
No,
customer.
I know.
He likes to bring up shit.
No, it doesn't
But
happen very often.
if it's a customer telling you, you just nod your head and say, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't tell them they're wrong.
You're
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah. That's Do you have any fitness or health role models at all? Did you come up with your own program for all that stuff? Or
Do you ever listen to Mind Pump? I listen
heard
to the
of
Mind
it.
Pump podcast, and I follow their fitness stuff. So they have a ton of different fitness programs you can get. I always find it's easier for me if I just have a program, right? So, hey, this is what you're doing. Yep. 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever it is. This is your workout program that you're doing. And I equate with a lot of people that I work with, it's easy to equate fitness and finance for me, right? You have to have a plan. You have to stick to the plan, and you got to hold yourself accountable. If you can do that on your own, awesome. But a lot of people can't. That's why coaches exist. I'm a financial coach. Here's how I can help you.
Right.
And so I kind of take that into the fitness world as well, right? You know, here's my fitness regimen that I follow. I do something every day, and it's ingrained in my mind that if I don't do something every day, it's not a full day. Like I have to do something. And then obviously like the eating stuff goes with that too.
Right.
Does that help you from going into the gym and just you find yourself lollygagging or something? It just knows like I'm hitting this machine now. All right, I'm done. Now I'm going to this machine now. Now I'm going to this machine. I'm not going to just lollygag from this machine to this machine to the, I can go over here. Nobody's over here. Do you find that helping you that way?
Yeah. You know, if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail, right?
Yeah.
You know, and if you have something to do and you go in there with an agenda, you're going to get it done.
And quicker, saves time. Again.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Do you change plans often, or do you kind of stick with the same tried and true?
It's usually they're like anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks, and then I'll do a different one. You know, maybe take a week off and just do some light stuff, and then do a different one. I have like 3 that I circle in. You know,
And it probably
in and out.
helps. You know, you're probably working different muscle groups or doing
It's
different motions.
It's something different every time. Yeah, you know, so like the one I'm on now is like phase 1 to 3 was strength, and then it was endurance, and then the last one is like power or something like that. You know, so it's always something different.
That's awesome.
But I found too that like, you know, taking that over to the financial planning side of things too, I like to have meeting agendas now. So it's not just let's have a review. Review what?
Right.
What do you want to talk about? Like I I don't want to have an hour meeting with you or a half hour meeting to talk about the weather. Like, let's have an agenda. What do you need? Let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about your goals, and let's talk about action steps that we can take moving forward.
I had to start doing the same thing to make sure there was a,
You know what I mean?
because you want to meet with the clients, obviously.
Yeah.
To make sure they're still happy, and but you got to have, you can't just talk about the weather. You can't talk about, the Nebraska football. It's got to be something well paced out. And
Can you, are you worried about giving away too much on your podcast, or is that kind of where, are you trying to help people on a podcast? On your podcast, are you looking to do kind of like you find the fitness podcast where they're telling you some goals and stuff? Is that kind of what you're looking to do on the financial side of it? Like, hey, we're just like a 10-week program. That's what we're going to try to do. We're just going to do a little one here. And then this is what we're going to do. That's kind of what you're looking at too.
Exactly. And so that's what I did with the books too. The books, everything's in those books for you to do it yourself. Like if you have the discipline and if you follow what I tell you in the books, you have everything you need to go do it yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I want the podcast to be too. So like I wanted it to have all of the information. This is what I do day in and day out. This is everything you need if you want to go do it yourself. God bless you. But what you'll find is that when a lot of people get successful enough from an income standpoint, or when things get complex enough from a financial standpoint, that's where they got to say, man, I need some help.
And then my time, again, it goes back to your time. My time is more valuable I need to make more money with my time, so I need somebody else to do this for me.
Exactly.
It makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Like that. And that goes back to your, like, anybody from $50 up to $500,000. Like, let's build you from here. Like we're going to help you all the way.
Yep.
And then you're going to go on your own for a while. And then, you're going to end up coming back to me at that point.
Exactly.
So I like that business plan. That's pretty insightful.
I think of it as the abundance cycle, right? I put out good stuff out there, and
it's going to come back.
It'll come back, right?
Well, the more you help people, the more obviously you're going to benefit too, right?
Yeah, it's selfish. Yeah. Anybody that does that is selfish. In the end, you can say you're not, but
it all comes down to the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a quick pause. I'm going to go to the bathroom, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the books.
Cool.
All right, we're back. We kind of all had to go take a little pee break there. You get sitting in here for an hour and have a beer or some water. You kind of
break time.
You kind of got to go. So going back to the books, you've wrote 3 books.
Yep.
So over how many years?
So first one was in 19. It came out
19.
How long was that after starting?
So it took probably about a year for the first one.
Concept to writing and everything?
Yeah. So the first one, I had it all wrote out. Like everything was all wrote out, and I was trying to find a publisher to publish the thing.
Yeah.
And I was finding a lot of places was like 30 to 40 grand. I'm like, Jesus. Are you kidding me? Like it's here. Like this is what it is. I don't know what to do with it. And like a lot of the publishers, I didn't know this, like you actually just talk to somebody. So like, it's like this. We're having a conversation. What do you want to write a book about? This is what I want to write the book about. I'm going to tell you everything that I want, sit and talk to you for days on end, whatever it is. And then you go, not me. I'm just telling you what I want the book to say. You go write it. That's what a lot of these were.
Is that like the ghostwriter type thing?
Yeah, like a ghost written type of thing. Okay. And I was like, no, I'm not going to pay for that. So luckily another advisor actually from Florida had done it, and I got hooked up with his aunt, who more or less, it's kind of like a hybrid. So it's not self-publishing, but there's a couple coaching calls. They edit it. They kind of help you through it. And then once I got set up with her, it was a pretty quick process to get it done.
Oh, so you just kind of get the concept and they helped you edit it and do the whole thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's like the typesetting and grammar stuff.
Yeah.
And everything.
So did you have to order so many ahead of time to sell, or did they kind of sell by?
I can't remember what our minimums are.
So there was minimums to
like 150 or 200 or something. Nothing crazy. You're not. So
are you putting all the orders together?
No, usually Amazon.
Amazon
a lot of
does
it is
it?
Amazon. They're available on my website, but
so is it like a drop ship type thing?
Yeah.
Or how does that?
Yeah. So like I have some website I go to, and you can order like bulk more or less.
So do you have? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you have the copies physically with you, or
Yep.
who is shipping the copies out?
So I have copies in the office. that I just give out to people more or less. But then like when people order it on Amazon, it's like printed on demand.
Oh,
Like there's actually print on demand is how it
really?
works. Yeah.
So like when I ordered those off your website.
That was from me.
Oh, okay.
That was from me.
Okay.
Yeah. But like if you ordered on Amazon.
They're printing them that right then and there.
Yeah, I believe so. It's kind of wild.
I didn't realize that. Is that
Yeah.
most books then?
Like this, I mean, it's not a New York Times bestseller.
Well,
I think
no,
most
but-
books like this, that's how it's done.
Yeah, it depends on the type of book, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Like
I
there's
thought
not
you-
a warehouse with vats of them or anything. It's just printed on demand,
Yeah.
I believe.
Wow.
You mean there's not a Walmart of each of these 3 books? full
Hundreds of
warehouse?
thousands of them.
what made you want to start writing books?
Just the education deal. So I was listening to a podcast one time, and the guy was talking about educating the masses, and he did it through written form, blogs. And I was like, that's a really good idea. Because, when I first started in my career, you work with a lot of young people, just like
Yep.
you were at the time.
Yep.
And then as you get busier and busier and busier, it's extremely tough to take, whether it's 45 minutes or an hour, with somebody who has no idea about finance.
Yep.
And
To
I was
try to
like,
bring them into
yeah.
it.
I was like, what if I wrote a book that's super basic? So super basic book on finance, personal finance, like entry level stuff that everybody should know. You should have been taught in high school, but nobody was. That's what the first book was. And so I go, like I've talked to public school a couple times, the sophomore, junior
I've
class.
seen that. That's really cool.
I give them copies of the book. There's a couple high schools that have me come out and talk to their junior or senior classes. I give them copies of the book. College, I've been out to the college and talked to a couple classes. I just use it as a giveaway to say, hey, this
Come
is just
see me.
Yeah.
It's a nice marketing. Well, it's a nice marketing
Yeah,
plan too.
yeah,
I mean,
it is.
if we're being honest,
It is, and it's not a huge financial thing either to give out
Right.
a book. You
right?
know,
No.
So you say you read a lot of books. Did you read a lot of books as a kid too? I mean, were you
No,
always a
hated it.
reader?
hated it.
See, I went the other way. When I was younger, I read all the time. Like I just loved reading. And then podcasting happened and I love listening to I basically listen to podcasts all the time.
Yep.
It just keeps my mind busy and
Yep.
I'm going to listen to interviews with Peterson or Kiyosaki. Have you heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yep.
Kiyosaki? I can't remember. I
Yep.
can't pronounce his name.
Robert.
That guy, I love listening to that guy. Anything with people like that, I just love listening to that. And so, but the one thing I've never tried is an audiobook. I don't know if I would listen to it. I can't.
It's almost like kind of listen to a podcast. It's a lot better when the author
Reads it.
does it
reads
himself.
Yeah.
I might have to try that. But so that's what I was curious if you, because I know you read them now. I didn't know if it was always that brought you into writing books, or did you start reading books after writing books?
I would say after college, I started reading books.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yep.
I'm a much more audio person, just like I am a visual person.
Yep.
I don't do well just read. Like when I read some of the book, I'm like, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing the podcast because it's one of those things. Like I retain a lot more watching something, listening to something than I do just reading it.
Yep.
And for most people, it's way more convenient if you're out for a walk. I love to listen to podcasts when I work out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me
Or if
too.
you're driving in the car, throw one on. It's just more, I'd say, more convenient. For
You
the
listen to
masses.
podcasts when you're working out.
Yeah.
So do I.
Surprising. I would listen when I work out. It's music to me. Like
Yeah.
I have to listen which obviously I work out a lot, but if I do work out, that one's got to be a music for me. If it's anything else, is a podcast to me, because working out, I just need something to get my blood going or my adrenaline going or whatever I think it might be.
It's almost like you're part of your motivation.
Part of my motivation, but other stuff is if I'm working, it helps focus me.
Yep.
When I'm also listening to something with substance. So to me, music isn't substance. It is substance, but it's more of a melody to me. It's just like, let's go.
So the first book was 21 Things You Need to Know About Money, How to Get It, Keep It, and Grow It.
Yep.
Can you kind of explain what that one's about?
Yeah. So that first book is just the base of financial knowledge, going out, getting a job, part-time jobs. I talk about part-time work in there, which I think for people that are struggling paycheck to paycheck is a huge deal. There's a lot of ways right now to make extra money if you have the time to do it, right? If you don't have the responsibilities of kids yet. So how to get money, work that part-time job, and then how to grow it. I talk about investing, right? Just the basics of investment in there. And then how to keep it. I talk about like some basic insurance things that you should have. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So get it, keep it, grow it. Just basic finance.
That's
stuff.
awesome. You don't just talk about the finance. You talk about part-time jobs, and
Yep.
that's kind of a cool concept. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that people underestimate what they're capable of far too often. They sell themselves short far too often.
Right.
Just thinking that, hey, I have to work my 8 to 5.
I work 40 hours a week, and that's all the time I have. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. Well, that's all I can do.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
And that was my whole thing too. Like when Katie and I were first starting out, hey, we're going to work a lot right now, but like when we start having kids and having a family, we won't be able to.
Yeah.
So let's do it now.
Working now for the later.
Yep.
That's good. Are you worried with some of the podcasts and the book? And the book obviously didn't just talk about finance. It talked about pursuing other things, part-time jobs and things. I was kind of told when I was first starting the podcast, like, oh, is it going to be about insurance? And I'm like, no, it's not. There are going to be some episodes that will be.
Yeah.
But like, don't just get put off because we're going to talk about other things.
Yeah.
Don't get put off just because you're in finance, certified financial planner and all that kind of stuff doesn't mean the whole podcast is going to be about, well, you should put your money here. You should put your money there.
Exactly.
So I just want to, for the listeners, don't get a misconception that this is just going to be a basic, boring thing that he's going to do.
Yeah. And I think your personality comes out through it too, right? Like those values come out through it too.
Yep. Very, very much so. We get pretty high on values coming out in both podcasts that we do. And, it's a lot of fun. I'm excited to hear what you're going to do in that podcast.
Yeah, it'll be a journey, that's for sure.
I'm excited. Next book, What's Your Plan? A Financial Guide to Developing Your Ideal Retirement. Can you explain that one?
So I didn't know it when I did my first one, but it kind of dawned on me. Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking, I guess, but my first book was kind of for a younger generation. Didn't really think about it at the time. But then when I was like, you know what? I really enjoyed that process. I've gotten some decent feedback from it. It's actually helped some people out. Like, let me try this again, but let me do a little bit more advanced, right? So it builds on the second book builds on the first book, right? And it's for those people kind of in those middle years where, okay, yeah, we have an income. We have some responsibilities, right? We just don't know where we want to. What do I do? Right? What do I do? So it really gives people a map, a plan, like a workout plan to say, hey, you do this, 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 and this based upon these goals and these values that you have, and you'll be fine.
That's great.
And so it's a step-by-step guide to say, hey, here's what you need to plan for, and here's how you do it, and here's where the money goes.
I kind of forgot to ask on the first one. Did the first one do, pretty good as far as books go?
I mean, I didn't hit it out of the park, but I would say the first book is probably the most popular one.
Is it? Probably because it's more of an entry level.
Yeah.
That's good.
I would say the first book is probably the more popular one.
And I'm not saying it hit it out of the park, but was it more than maybe you thought it was going to be when you first did it? Or was it kind of underwhelming for you?
I would say on average, so it's different when it launches. Like when it launches, you'll probably have maybe 100, 150 sold.
Right. Yeah. When you launch, just like when we launched the podcast, it takes a while for it to get traction.
But I would say month over month, I probably average 3 to 4 of those green ones going out on Amazon.
That's not bad.
No, I mean,
That's
it's nothing
good.
crazy. I would say I give a lot more out. Which is
good. It's good. Like I talked about, it's a marketing
Yep.
thing. Your name's on it.
Yep.
Come to me.
Correct.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good.
I give out way more than are bought. I'll say it that way.
Which was probably somewhat of what you were kind of going for when you first wrote it in the first place, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a little bit of a marketing.
Correct.
That's all. I like that. I like that idea. I couldn't go write a book on insurance. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I couldn't write a book on anything. Like, I just don't have, again, patience.
Yeah.
I'll sit and talk about anything I want to talk about. I'll talk about it, but writing it. So I could do an audio book without an actual book.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Yeah. So that second book, more of the middle. So it's kind of where we're at, I guess, in life.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
In your, 30s
Exactly.
to 40s.
Yep.
We have this money.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we put it?
Yeah, correct.
Is that kind of what it?
Yep. Helps you envision what your future is going to look like. And okay, we got that vision down. Now, what do I need to do to get from where I am today to where I want to be in 20 or 30 years? Right. You have to have a plan to get where you want to go. This gives you the plan to get where you want to go.
So first book, go make the money, save the money. Second book, where are we going to put it? What's our plan?
Yep.
Third book, I like the name, Red Zone Retirement Plan.
Yep.
How'd you come up with that?
I don't know. I would say it's a common deal in the industry. They talk about the retirement red zone, right? You know, it's you get closer to retirement 5 to 8 years out.
Well, we do live in Nebraska, though.
Yeah, and that's true.
So, I mean, that's what I thought the play was the red zone, a playbook to executing your ideal retirement.
I thought it was a Nebraska thing.
Yeah. And so it just kind of came to me one day that, you know what, that's a great name for a book. And nobody had taken it yet. And I was like, all right, it's done. That's what we're going to do.
I'm really surprised nobody's taken that name.
That's what I had thought too.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had a hard time coming up with names for the both podcasts.
Yeah.
And when I finally came up with them, I'm like, oh, geez, why did it take me so long to do that?
Yeah.
You know. But so explain that last one, Red Zone Retirement Plan.
Yeah. So the Red Zone Retirement Plan, it's really for people, I would say anywhere from 2 to 8 years out from retirement, which is an extremely pivotal time.
So really we're talking that late in the game. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I talk about things in there from like when you claim Social Security, how Medicare works for you, how you should be investing your money as retirement comes close and you get ready to spend that money. Because it's one thing to save money, right? That's one side of the coin. But it's a whole nother side of the coin to spend it down in retirement. Two different worlds, right?
Huge, yeah.
And it really gives people the tools and the knowledge to not only, again, think about, because a lot of people don't think about what they want their retirement to look like. They just say, I want to retire. To what?
Yeah.
Why? What are you going to do? A lot of them they're so single focused on this retirement date that they wake up in retirement and they're like, now what?
Right.
So right. I see that with a lot of people that they want to retire from the job they're at, but then that last 6 months and I got to go do something.
Yeah.
And I'm that way. I don't know. I don't know that I could ever really retire because I would feel like, ugh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I just feel better when I'm doing anything, even if it's not really that self-involved or that involved in anything. You just got to, then I see what you're saying. You got to have an idea what you want to do when you're at that level.
I would say all three of us sitting here couldn't just go sit and retire and do nothing.
No.
That's why I like the job that I'm in, because I could probably do this as long as I wanted to. You could do the same.
Yeah.
You can do, I mean, you probably couldn't do that job.
Not my job, but everything else I know, I could go back into that.
Right. So it's just one of those things I don't think I could ever just be one of those that just sits around and watches the prices right every day.
I always say I want to create a life that you don't need a vacation from. Right. You know how some people are like, I got to get away. I need wouldn't it be easier to build a life that you don't need a vacation from? Right. Well, also when I think about the career side of things, I want to build a career that I never need to retire from.
Right.
Unless if I want to, that's one thing. Right. And I just think far too many people, when they're thinking about their future retirement, that they don't think about what they're going to be doing. So part of it's vision, right? Part of the book is on vision, and then part of it's on strategy too. How do you execute that plan?
How do you work with some of your blue collar workers that want to retire? Right. So we're talking about I would say your concept is a little more blue collar, Vance. You're in more of a blue collar job.
I would say 90% of my life is blue collar. Yeah.
So obviously you can't do that forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you help those type of people plan their retirement?
Yeah. What's really tough for those people is a lot of times it's physical limitations that force them to retire.
Yep.
That's the way it works.
It's going to happen.
Right.
The Father Time's undefeated.
Yeah. It's like farmers, right?
Yep.
Yeah. They'll do that till the day they die. But at some point they can't do it anymore.
Yeah, you can't see. The machinery is getting bigger and bigger. It's harder to control it. I mean, it
devastating.
Happens. Yeah.
It's devastating. I've had I have the opportunity to work with a lot of farmers in my job, and seeing some of them go through some. There was a few of them that went through COVID and didn't come out well.
Yeah.
On the other side, and some of them didn't get to do harvest this year. They had to watch their son and their wife.
I watched it for my grandpa, which my My grandpa was the president of the Nebraska Farm Bureau for 25 some years, but he was also a farmer. He was a farmer his whole life. So he was involved in, I was never a row cropper. I grew up on the livestock side of it. I've never done the row cropping. Helped obviously, but so we have row crops on our farm, our family, my parents' place. And so, but grandma and grandpa, or grandpa and my uncle are the ones that farmed it obviously all the time. Well, grandpa would come all the time. He would help harvest. He'd help planting. Eventually he got so old he just couldn't run the combine. Then he couldn't run the grain cart.
Yeah.
And once he retired from Farm Bureau, and you just watch that aging process happen faster than I've ever seen something happen. Like it was because at that time I was maybe in my upper teens, lower 20s, somewhere in there. So that was kind of a growing point in my life to watch an aging process that I've never really noticed. And I mean, he made it until, 3 or 4 years ago, but the last 5 to 10 years weren't the way I remember him growing up. And so that was something that's crazy to me. And then that's going back to that blue collar thing. A lot of us in the blue collar field just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's not labor.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're giving up. And I think that's a mental thing I think that's a real thing. I really do think that's
it's a tough thing to watch.
Yeah, it
really is.
It was tough.
So going back to that, how do you help somebody like that?
Yeah.
Maybe plan for that and what they could do.
Yeah.
To fulfill their life better at the
yeah. So I talk about in the book purpose, right? So
I was just going to say purpose.
A lot of people, and it's not a bad thing, right? If your purpose is tied up in your work, but if you're forced to go away from that because of health issues, or you just can't do it anymore, or that industry moves on and leaves you behind because of advances in technology, for example, right? People have to have a purpose outside of their job, right? Whether that's your hobbies, right? Whether that's a charity, whether that's volunteering, whether that's your church, whether that's golfing, or, you just have to have something else that you do outside of work that brings value and passion to your life. Because if you don't, and that job gets shut off, then what?
Yeah. And going back to your technology side of it, that's rapidly approaching.
Yeah.
That people, I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to.
Yeah.
On your side of it, are you seeing a more uptick of your customers saying, "Hey, what's going to happen when my job is here? We need to start planning ahead for maybe me moving into another field, or giving myself a little bit of a window." Do you deal with that much yet, or is it still not really there right now?
That's funny you say that. Just today, gal works for a large corporate real estate company. And she more or less said, I'm 63. I'd love to work till I'm 67 or 68. She's like, but I know in the next 2 years that I'm not going to have a job anymore. Because what I do is it's data entry. It'll be replaced. And so we're going to have a conversation of, hey, what do we do? And I talk about it in the book, and I think it's a thing that's overlooked, is looking at part-time work. You have 30 plus years of experience. Like,
you can figure pretty much anything out.
Yeah, you should be able to do something to add value in some way, somewhere.
Yep.
So what if we do part-time work for 4 years instead of full-time work for 2 years? How's that sound?
There are also some small businesses that need data entry. Like,
yeah,
I looked at that the other day. I saw an article the other day that's talking about how you can work. You could break down your 5-day work week to 2, working for 2 small businesses doing the same thing you were doing and making more money that way.
Yeah,
it was kind of crazy how they talked about the concept of that. Like, if you're really good at something, you can go support or help a small business, and they're probably going to be willing to pay you.
Oh yeah,
whatever they need, so that they don't have to do it.
What's funny is there was an article too. I can't remember where it was at, but a guy worked 3 full-time jobs remotely at the same time for a whole year.
Yeah,
they didn't know. They had
I wouldn't doubt it.
Isn't that wild?
That's straight out of COVID.
Yeah.
And that's why I had a lot of people argue with me on the offices are never going to come back. Nobody's ever going to come back to the office. Yes, they are. They have to, because they realized I had friends that would get up, not get dressed, clock in, go shower, go cook their breakfast, not do anything for 3 hours, then go do something, and then, get done 2 hours before they said they're done. It's like, that was happening. Like, and businesses they're just not going to allow that. They're going to allow it for a while, and eventually they're going to say, all right, you guys, we gave you a little bit of leash. You took it too far. Now we're coming back, and now we're going to do it for a while. And everything's in cycles.
But it also shows how productive people can be.
Yeah.
If they just set to it and do it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Because they would do all their work in 3 or 4 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying about these people that can do some of these part-time things,
Correct.
work 2 or 3 jobs, only work 3 days a week.
Yeah.
But they can get all that crap done and get paid 3 times the salary.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because these small businesses are going to want to pay it and have it done. Because they don't want to do it.
It adds value to that business.
So much value.
Whatever they need, as long as you're doing what they need, they're happy with it. Now, don't take advantage of it. That's where
the
people
other key
get
piece.
Correct.
Like if somebody feels like they're getting cheated, they're going to have animosity about it. Like if you're cheating me, whether it be wasting time doing whatever, you're wasting my money that I'm paying you. You're wasting my time because you're taking 3 hours to do a job I know you can do in 30 minutes. Then I'm going to feel animosity to you. Where if maybe we all come to, as a society, like where you're getting at, maybe we decide, hey, this is a 4-hour job. As long as you get it done in 4 hours, you're going to get paid your day's work because that's what's worth to me today. If you get 2 days work, probably give you 2 days work.
Yep.
But go do what you need to do with your schedule and everything. As long as my work gets done and we're all on the same page, we're all happy with it. Nobody's cheating anybody. We're finding a common wage. Maybe that's what we need to get closer to.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Going back to the blue collar, can you give us an example of how you've helped somebody in that way? Like plan, like, hey, you're going to need a purpose, and how you help them kind of get to that purpose? Like help them find that, or is that not something you maybe get into a whole lot?
Yeah, I would say maybe the best example is helping clients find a second career.
Okay.
Right. And so, there's a couple situations that I can think of where client was doing one blue collar job is what they always did. And then retirement, we knew retirement was coming, physically not able to do it. But this guy, usually males, is going to go crazy if he doesn't do anything.
Exactly. Probably die within a couple of years.
Yeah.
After retirement.
Yeah.
It's usually how it goes.
Yeah. And so, brainstorming on what can you do? Delivery driver. You can deliver. You can drive a vehicle from A to B and have people pick things up out of it and take it out. That's not rocket science. That's happened a couple times. Yeah.
That's a good example.
Yeah. Because people need those types of services are out there. Right. Whether driving a cement truck. Those type of jobs are out there that need to be done, and it's not a lot of manual labor most times.
Right. I was trying to think of another example, and I can't think of one. If I think of it, I'll come back to it. That was one big, and I know that the listeners are gonna like talking about the blue collar jobs because. So, at what age was that person getting to that to start talking to that?
67 is when he did that transition. Yeah.
So what's the average age now of retirement?
Late 60s. Yeah.
So he was
late
60s
is a lot of people.
Because a lot of people can't do the old adage anymore, right?
No, if you planned right, if you did stuff right,
starting at book 1.
Yeah.
But that's
in your 30s, right? If you do stuff right when you're young, it's a heck of a lot easier to retire at an earlier age. I would say in general the masses are not able to do that.
I would completely agree with you. So how do you help somebody, let's say somebody comes in at 55.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, I want to retire at 65.
Yep.
They have nothing planned yet.
Yeah, it's a tough road. It's not going to be easy.
Can you walk a little, without getting too crazy, can you walk through that a little bit?
Yep. So, say somebody comes in 55, nothing done yet. Well, if you want to retire in 10 or 15 years, you better get to work. And a lot of times it's framing to them what it's going to look like in the future, right? And so let's set realistic expectations about what that's going to look like in 15 or 20 years, right?
How do they take that?
sometimes it's a wake up call and they never come back. But other times they really hammer down and they say, yes, okay, this is what we need to do. The kids are gone. We have no more expenses from the kids' standpoint. Now it's time to focus on what we want.
Okay. So going back to the younger, so let's go back to book one, 20 to 30.
Yeah.
Right? That's really what book one's for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
I do have a.
go ahead. Yeah.
The way I understand it on your book one, though, that's not specifically. You can start that level at any point, right?
Oh, right,
That's
yeah.
where you're at on book one.
Yeah, I mean, there's 40 and 50-year-olds
It's
that-
gonna. You may be you're behind the 8 ball, but you can't. What I'm trying to say is I don't want to discourage people from looking at that just because you're in, like, if I'm, I'm almost 40, whatever. I come in at 45, 46, and I have no understanding. Maybe I need to start with that first one, because even at 45, you can do that part-time job on top of your full-time job.
Oh, heck
so
yeah.
that's kind of where I was getting at.
Sorry,
I didn't want to.
You're good.
I know what you were saying, but I just don't want to discourage people to think, hey,
Well,
we
I could see how the audience might get confused there.
Yeah.
I was just trying to put in a perspective of where we were going at with that, because I was going to talk about the young people versus the 55-year-old. So let's say you got a 23-year-old that comes in.
Yep.
Hey, I really want to look towards my future. I want to retire at 65.
Yep.
And they're not getting the concept.
Yep.
So they're going to maybe be that 55-year-old that isn't ready.
Yep.
How do you get that concept into their head? How do you change their mind? Because we know how sometimes we were young once.
Yep.
We're like, I'll do it in 10 years. I'll do it in 5 years.
I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it is what it is.
So, like, how do you ingrain that into? Does it work for you? Do you get through to people?
Yeah. So I'll start real quick. And when I also get those older people that they come in and they're like, I wish I would have started sooner. Hey, call your kids and tell them that.
Right.
Like, be an example. Tell your kids, like, hey, we're trying to get ready for retirement. We're 55 or 60. I wish I would have started with $100 a month, 500, whatever, $500 a month, whatever it is. I wish I would have started when I was your age. Don't tell me. Like, call your kids and tell them. Like, be a parent, right? But with the younger generation, one thing that we do is we show them a financial calculator, just to say, hey, you're 18. Look, if you put 100, the young guy in our office, I'm having him do this with his friends, put $100 a month, $200 a month, $250 a month, whatever it is, into a Roth IRA for 30 years, compound that at 8%, and look at that number.
Yep. If
that doesn't get you motivated, I don't know what will.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Right.
The other thing, we were just doing 401k reviews for a company a couple weeks ago, and it's really cool. It's like a printout of their statement. Hey, here's what you'll have at 65. But if you increase your contributions from 5% to 7% to 9% to 11%, look what you'll have.
Yep.
And with those people that are 25 to 35, their eyes get real big. Oh, how do I do that? Well, don't do it all at once, right? We're not going to solve the world's problems in one day. Yeah. But what you can do is every year you get a raise, take 1% of your raise.
Yep.
Put it towards your 401k. And then let's do that every year for 10, 15 years. And you'll blow that other number out of the water doing it that way.
Right. That concept, I've been in the taking money getting paid or whatever, but that's the first time I've ever heard anybody say take 1% of your raise. I've never heard that before ever. Yeah. I've never one time heard that.
It's the best
Nobody
way to
has
look
explained
at it
it
is
that
percentages
way.
because
that's crazy.
If you start talking dollar amounts, people go
that's
wild.
My money. That's my money.
I've always done percentages because I'm gonna get the max that I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
I've never understood the people that don't get the full match. Like I just to that one never makes sense to me. Like they're giving you this money if you do this much. Like that's free money. That's a benefit to you. That's a higher wage to you. So just take it. Take their money. Allow them to take their money. But I've never heard anybody say every year that you get a raise, take X% of that raise and throw it extra into there. I've never heard that before.
It's super easy concept, right?
Yeah, it makes 100% sense.
You're used to living that way.
Going back to talking about telling your kids.
Yeah.
I run into the same problem with life insurance.
Oh, yeah.
I've got people come in at 45, 50 years old.
Yep.
They maybe have a small term policy that only lasted maybe 15, 20 years. And I'm like, hey, we can convert this now. or you're gonna, if you want life insurance going forward, we're gonna have to do something different.
Yeah.
And their eyes get real wide when the price comes around.
Yep.
And I'm like, if you just would have listened to me or whoever 15, 20 years ago and done whole life then, this would have been a hugely different conversation. And I'm still having a hard time getting that through some of the young people's heads.
Yeah. No, it is a tough conversation. A lot of times with clients, it's one thing to talk about the life insurance, but what I focus on, like people like us, people that are young, maybe we have families, maybe we don't have families. What does that mean? What does the $1 million of life insurance mean?
Right.
What is that? $1 million sounds like a lot of money.
Yep.
Right. But for like Katie, we just did our annual review. We got 3 kids in the house.
Yeah.
4th one coming. $1 million is nothing over the course of 30 years.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. And so I like to have those conversations of what does it mean, right? What does that $1 million do for your family?
$1 million nowadays ain't gonna get you very far.
No, I always go back to that. Say you're taking out 4% or 5%, it's going to last for 30 years. Say 4% to be conservative. That's $40,000 a year. Like raising a family of 4 boys on 40. Good luck. Like God bless you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I try to bring up with young families, like, and this is gonna sound misogynistic of me a little bit, but like, usually it's the man doing the blue collar job.
Yep.
Usually has making the money.
Yep.
Usually has the benefits. Usually is doing the retirement plan. They're putting out all that they can into there.
Yep. Which the benefits is a huge part.
Huge
Beyond the $1 million. So, and I just actually had this conversation with a guy at work. He was talking about, I was asking about his guy not showing up, whatever. His trainee his trainee had a roommate that made X amount of dollars at a fast food place that was comparable to our starting wage. But then it's like, and he asked him, he goes, well, is he getting life insurance? Or is he getting health insurance? Is he getting, because we don't, as a single man, I don't pay health insurance where I work. They pay that benefit for me. So that's $300, $400 a month, whatever it may be. We get a little bit of a bonus. Don't count on it, but it's a bonus. If it's there, take it, use it, blah, blah, blah. You get 401k match, you get that. And it's just these people, they just look at that one little dollar amount per hour.
Mm-hmm.
Like that benefit that you're not getting paid is actually worth quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And people just don't pay attention to that.
So in a family side, let's say you're Adam, but you're working your job.
Yep.
You got 3 kids, one on the way. Katie's at home. Adam dies at work.
That insurance is gone.
All of the benefits are gone. Everything's gone. You don't have a decent life insurance policy. Katie's going to be scrambling.
Yeah, it's tough.
Probably having to remarry sooner than she wants to, if she ever wants to.
Yeah.
And I have those kind of conversations.
Upgrade?
Yeah.
And it's one of those conversations you get, and people don't like to have that conversation.
No, you got to talk about
They're
it.
like,
though.
wait, my wife's going to remarry. I'm like, they're going to have to.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah.
They're going to have to.
Not because she wants to. She needs to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having to, I hate having to scare people.
Yeah.
But you almost have to in our
we have
lines of work.
we have to reality, right? We have to have
reality
these
check. Let's call it that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got some amazing books, and I can tell you're passionate
Yeah. Thank
about
you.
all of
Thank
them.
you.
You explained them very well. I think people could benefit very much from going and getting a copy.
I mean, I'm just sitting here. I learned a bunch of stuff just sitting here, like you talked about that 1%. Like just this little podcast right here. It's a lot of information.
I've learned
I'm
something on
excited to get
every
into the book.
podcast
Yeah,
that I've done.
Yeah. From
Even
anybody.
though I know you ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I've learned so much just about you.
Yeah.
Just sitting here about what you do. Where is the best place for people to go get your books?
I'd probably say on Amazon. On Amazon or my website is a good place to check them out.
What's your website?
AdamDOlson.com.
And make sure you get that D in there. So AdamDOlson.com. Don't just type Adam Olson. It won't work. I tried that the first time.
You'll go somewhere else.
At www.adamdolson.com. We're going to switch trajectories here just a little bit. We're going to get a little political. With an election year coming up, how do you feel about where the state of the country is right now? Do you feel that you are being well represented at the federal and state levels?
I don't know, man. As a business owner, I think a lot of the taxes we pay are pretty wild, to be honest with you.
I would
by
agree.
By the time you factor everything up,
Especially as business owners who, well, I guess we'll just go business owners. We're kind of entrepreneurs. We're not working for a corporation. We're not, we have to pay.
Not a
we're
big
paying
company,
staff or
yeah. And and it's not only federal tax, not only state tax. I mean, sales tax, like to license and register a vehicle, what that cost is. I mean, it's by the time you think about everything that you have to pay for, property tax, it's kind of wild what you have to pay there. And I just think it's really sad when the state that we're in and we're worried about other people.
Right.
That'd be like, so I always say it'd be like me and Katie going through a divorce right now, and then I'm trying to give somebody else marital advice.
Right.
Right. I
Right.
mean, that's what it'd be like. Like when
100%.
when we're sending all this money overseas,
Right.
we're saying, hey, we need to support the people of XYZ country. I don't care
Right.
where it is.
I mean, we have one guy here shaking the can right now in our White House trying to get money today. I mean, he was here today, so I'm 100% on that side. Like, let's fix the home front before we worry about anybody else.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of needs here
Yeah,
domestically.
tons
that
of
we
them.
have, that we can take care of long before we should look at helping outside people. And you're always going to hear the article or the argument about, safety, right? We have to have these, and I get that, but come on, I mean, like
To an extent.
they don't know where half the money's going that they send overseas, right?
When we sent extra money
Yeah,
Yeah.
here you go.
in the
I mean,
billions.
technically, it's coming back. It's just,
I'm just
we're not
saying.
going to get into that. It's just
Yeah.
going to certain people.
But no, and I just feel like we could do a lot better.
I would agree.
Do you know on the financial side of it? Like I've heard all kinds of different figures and stuff, but I mean, there's ones that float out there all the time. How many times is $1 taxed? Isn't it like 7 times the amount or 70 times the amount is actually how much money's generated in tax off of $1?
Yeah,
like it's just some stupid amount. Like
a lot.
how
It's
does
a
that
lot.
on a financial, asking you from the financial side of it, how's that compute? How's that possible to we're just making money up, in my opinion? Isn't that what that sounds like?
Yeah, I mean, well, they print money.
Well,
that's part of what printing money
yeah.
is. But I mean, probably a big part of the problem is the government's so big. There's so much waste,
Yeah.
and we give so much away.
Are you big on the social safety net or not? Or are you more into, and I assume from your books that you're less on the social safety net and more on make your own safety net.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with helping people.
Yep.
Certain
people need it.
Yeah, Katie and I are very charitably inclined. We like to support things that we like to support. But we do health insurance, right? And so to see the games that some people play with, like the Medicaid system,
I don't even want to get into that.
Yeah, that kind of makes my stomach hurt sometimes, to be
Yeah.
real honest with you. Whether we're not, hey, we're having 5 kids together, but we're not married, but we're living together, and then, the state's taking care of all my kids. Like, I get it. People go through tough times, and I'm not against helping people. But when you're working the system like that,
Zach
karma,
and I just had this conversation the other
I think
night.
it's a karma deal. It comes around and catches those people.
Do you do much on healthcare.gov?
Yeah, we do a lot in our office. I've luckily gotten away quite a bit of that this year, but it's to see the games that some people play. It's just like, what are you doing, man?
When
How do you
you're
think
going-
we're in the problem we're in the first place?
Well, exactly. When
You're
you're
the
going,
problem.
When you're going through that, have you had to kind of manipulate some numbers to get people out of Medicaid?
Yeah, you can bump up the numbers. Yeah, to get
Isn't
them.
that crazy that we even have to do that though?
Yeah, yeah,
Like this person doesn't even want it,
yeah.
but they're just going to automatically send them
To Medicaid.
to Medicaid.
Yeah,
I'm like, no, we got to. They're like, I don't want to go. I'm like, we'll
You tweak
manipulate
it.
the numbers a little bit.
Tweak
You
it.
mean your client is asking to get me out of Medicaid?
Yeah.
Not you.
I'm physically telling them we should, like, you're
Don't
not
go
a
there.
candidate for Medicaid.
Wouldn't
Well,
it?
and you're estimating
'Cause we
income,
know.
too. I mean, you're
Yeah.
estimating future income.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Like these are like the people I'm saying that I'm working with aren't.
They shouldn't be on it.
No,
Yeah,
nor do they want to be.
but some
That's
people
what
take
I'm saying.
advantage of it too.
They do.
On the flip side of the coin, some
They do.
people take advantage.
Well,
of
that
it
goes
too.
back to the value system, and I just we'll just
Yeah.
I'll wash my hands of that situation.
Here's an 800 number.
I'll say, here's an 800 number. Here's your website. You can go do. I'm not going to be a part of it.
Yep. No, I mean, I'm not against helping people, but yeah, there has to be a line somewhere.
Personal responsibility, I think, is a huge thing. I think more people need to take that into account, and we would be better off as a whole if people would do that.
Yep.
And then we can take care of the people that, people have really, really bad accidents, and they're like the last people to ask for the help.
Yep.
That's the problem that I have an issue with. Is say
I just
somebody
interviewed one 2 hours ago.
he doesn't want to have that. Like, I don't know. I didn't.
He
have
doesn't
that
want the
interview,
help, but
there's certain people that, I mean, they'll lose their entire house. They'll lose everything. They will not ask a single person for help.
Yeah.
And then people, I mean, they'll help them and then they'll feel bad, whatever, about taking the help. And then there's other people that will, oh, my house burned out, which sucks. But then they'll game the system. Well, I had this in there. 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 You got proof? Oh, yeah. And it happens. It's just like, man, if we could just find a happy medium between the two.
And it goes back to finding a job, part-time, couple part-times.
Yeah.
You can support yourself. We have a society where you can make all the money you want.
Yeah. And the system is broke too, though. Like I know a couple of situations come to the top of my mind that clients have super expensive drugs, like thousands of dollars a month.
Yeah.
And if you make more than whatever, $1,000 or $2,000, whatever it is, you can't qualify for help.
Yep.
And so those people are literally forced to only make $1,000 a month or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So they can get these medicines for free. Because if they make $500 more, that bill goes from zero for that drug to $8,000, and they can't get the drug and they'll die.
Right.
Like there's things that need fixed in the system, right?
We talk a lot about pharmaceuticals with Jose in our second episode.
Oh yeah.
Holistic medicine and we're not big proponents of medication and things. There's ways around it.
Yep.
You just got to be a little healthy.
Yeah.
Follow your lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. Eat clean.
Yeah. Do you feel that the systems that are in place still work in today's time? So I'm talking by systems, I'm talking about the right, the left, independent. Like, do you feel that having the two-party system is working still, or do you think there needs to be a deviation from that? Or how do you feel on that?
Yeah, both sides are corrupt. I mean, that's pretty clear that there's corruption no matter what side you're talking, right?
Yep.
And so I think there has to be a wave of people willing to step up that have what it takes and have integrity. And I think a lot of that comes from being a self-made man, or, hey, I'm not a career politician. This isn't my career as a politician, right? I've done XYZ outside of politics, but now I want to go help the country or go help my community.
Right.
And, I have zero desire to do that, to be honest with you. But, maybe
it seems like some of the best people don't have desire to do that.
Yeah, but,
which sucks.
Yeah, that is. But, maybe in 15, 20 years, I'll have that desire to give back or whatever that looks like at that time. I don't know. But I think it's going to take a lot of good people who don't have any self-interest to step up and saying, hey, we're doing this for the greater good.
So coming up,
I was going to say, I think it comes back to, and going back to that, like a lot of people, there's a lot of sacrifice. You're sacrificing everything. I mean, and that's why a lot of these people that are self-made, they have too much to lose. So they don't want to do it. And that goes back to our founding fathers.
Yeah.
They gave up their life, liberty, and happiness. Like they risked everything they had. They knew once they signed that document, they were done. If we don't win, they're murdered. Their wives, their families are taken. Their land is taken. They are done. Whatever everything they own, they've built, they've done is gone. And I think a lot of people, they like to poo-poo the founding fathers, but I mean, they literally risked everything for us to be able to do this. And we've kind of gotten away from that, and kind of going back to where you're saying that self-made man or woman, whatever it is, they just got to find that. And I'm not that. And we just need more people willing to risk everything and not be bought we have a system that loves to beat you down. They want you to cower. They want to buy you off. Everybody wants to buy you off as a system. So
keep you dependent.
Exactly. 100%. That's crazy.
Yeah. And what that looks like, I don't know what it looks like, but I mean, something's got to change.
We talk about it on the other podcast, but tall task to even discuss.
Yeah.
Talk a lot of circles.
We do.
We try to get better at it, but
With the election year coming up and the debates happening, have you seen a lot of the infighting on both sides, especially on the Republican side?
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it?
It's super sad.
Like
Wouldn't you rather hear the issues?
yeah,
And know what each candidate's about, not like, oh, this person said this and you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's bigger than you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like when it's just a more or less a pissing contest back and forth, like, guys, we have a little bit bigger problems than this going on, right? So can't we maybe get behind somebody that's gonna do the right thing and stop with this childish stuff that we're screaming at each other about for 2 hours every other month or whatever it is?
Yeah. It's
you know what I mean?
ridiculous is what it is to me.
Yeah, it's sad to see.
Yeah, I won't even watch the debates anymore for that reason.
No, I mean, I'll look at the highlights and stuff.
Oh, the highlights, yeah.
that's pretty much all I watch.
But it's usually just this person fighting this person and not about any issues that actually involve the country.
No. Yeah,
Kind of makes me mad.
Yeah, there's just
If
so
you
much
can't tell.
self-interest up there too, which is sad.
That too. Like, let's look out for the country. Let's not look out for
Me.
you
Yeah.
being president.
Yeah.
I think the system of the debate, the debate system, I think debates are a really good thing. Not
If
in
they're
their
done correctly.
Yeah, not in their current form. They're not a really good thing. But I think the concept of debates are really good because we've talked about this on multiple podcasts.
The original concept
the concept
is amazing.
Yeah.
If you're
But-
debating
Yeah.
about the issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100%. And I think where we're at now, not only do we have this infighting that is, it gets into personal, it gets into screwing up. We're not talking about the issues that we really need to deal with. It's also destroying future leaders.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you're tainting somebody's ability. Yeah, maybe it's not their time right now. Maybe they're getting their feet wet. Maybe they just aren't quite there. They're not quite polished. They're not quite have a big enough backbone to deal with the attacks from I'm going to say the Matrix, the Matrix attacks, but because the system attacks, but whatever. And then we just end up losing who could be great in the future. Maybe we're sacrificing that for petty squabbles.
Yeah.
And I think that is a system that I see that as a bigger issue on the infighting side to me is we're ruining candidates for the future to me more than just what's going on right now. It's just we're talking about the future that kind of drives me crazy.
That's kind of DeSantis to a T.
Yeah. I like DeSantis. I loved him as a governor. I personally didn't think it was his time.
It was too quick. Yeah.
I thought he got used, in my opinion, by the donors and people in his circle told him it was his time. I didn't personally think it was his time.
Yeah, look, he should have waited 4 years.
And I'm not going to completely stick up for Trump, but we all know what Trump is. Trump's going to sling mud. It's what he does. He's going to make fun of you. He's going to do whatever. But we've seen what he did. I mean, he's got a little bit of a backbone, and I think DeSantis was set up, and I think it was a deliberate, in my opinion, I think the Uniparty set up DeSantis for this. That's what it feels like to me is they said, hey, let's take two of them out at one time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't like that losing a future candidate type or a future in on either side, a future great leader.
Yep.
They can always grow. Let's just keep it. This is where you're at right now. Let's talk this way on a mutual debate. And like we've talked about, I love the long form interviews more than even the debates. Ramaswamy goes on a lot of debates. I love listening long form podcasts. I love listening to him. DeSantis has been on long form podcasts. I like listening to him. We've talked about RFK Jr. I love certain parts of him. I hate different parts of him, but I love him going on a long form podcast. It seems way more decorum, and that if they're on with the right people, they're still going to challenge them. You're going to hear those answers.
But the publicists are telling them not to do that.
Yeah, I know.
Which it is what it is.
Yeah.
Moving aside from that, so we're going to start kind of wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself going in the future? Obviously, you love what you do.
Yep.
I don't probably see you doing something else.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Do you see yourself like staying in Nebraska? Do you see yourself ever wanting to leave? Do you like other places?
Yeah. So I guess I try to evolve daily. Like I try to be a better person, a better man, a better father, husband, whatever it is. I try to get better every day. And when I look back to who I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I get like a pit in my stomach. I'm like, you idiot. Like, what were you thinking? What were you doing? And I feel like that's a good thing. And so my hope is that in 10 to 15 years, I look where I am now and I have the same feeling, that, hey, Adam, you are capable of so much more. You're capable of helping more people. You're capable of being a bigger change in the world. You're capable of being a better father, a better husband, a better leader. That's what my hope is in 10 to 15 years. Where that takes me, I don't know. I love where we're at now. I love what I do now. I don't ever see myself getting out of finance, but what that looks like in 10 or 15 years, I just hope that I'm able to evolve in the man that can be that person in 10 to 15 years that looks back and says, you had a long way to go, buddy.
Isn't it crazy to think about that? Like talking about 10 years ago and you're like, oh, I thought I had it all together.
Yeah, no.
I thought I was
Not
great.
quite.
And then you're like, oh man, I was kind of a tool, Well,
or even like you look back at like college and high school, it's like, dude, you so many missed opportunities.
could have
You know
done
what
so
I mean?
much more.
Lots of-
Yeah. If I had the knowledge now, that I have now, then
That shows growth. And that kind of goes back on you see a lot of people talk about, would you take this now, or would you rather go back in time and tell yourself all the mistakes to avoid? No, I'm going to take those mistakes. That's my personal opinion. I mean, that makes who you are. I think that's how you grow. I don't want the cheat codes.
No,
in my opinion, I think that helps. Yeah, would I like to change things? Absolutely.
Yep.
Everybody's made. I've made countless mistakes in
Too
my
many
life.
to count.
It's whatever. But yeah, if you want to go into politics, you got my vote. I think I would vote for you.
Yeah, like I said, I have zero desire to do that, and mad respect to people that do though, because that is a very selfless thing to do. You're an open book at that point, and good for you if you want to do that. But yeah, my hope is that I'm doing something great in the future.
Isn't it great to get told that though? I get told that too. I'm like, you should go into politics. I don't want to. I have no desire to do that.
Yeah, I might be the last guy you want to do that.
I was
Sometimes.
I got too much shit in my closet to.
Don't
dig in that. Let's
open
call
that door. Don't open that door.
Don't worry about that
don't
door.
worry about that door.
That door.
We're not gonna
We're gonna
crack that
pretend
door.
that door's not there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do something a little different on this podcast. If you've made it to the end of this, we're gonna give a few books away.
Yeah.
I think. So if you go to agentlifemediagroup.com or .com, Agent Life Media Group Facebook page, and just leave us a little comment on Adam's post, Red Zone Retirement. Just put Red Zone Retirement in the comments. You'll be eligible to get a...
What do you want to do? 5 copies of each one? I have.
That's what I'm thinking.
I got
Wanna
a
do
ton
that?
of copies of each. 5 copies of each one we'll give out.
So the first 15 people?
first
Or do you
fif-
want 5 for each person?
You guys figure it out. I don't care.
We'll do the first 15 people.
Yeah. Let's
First
do it.
people to do that?
First
You can-
15 people to comment Red Zone Retirement on Adam's episode post will get one copy of
That's awesome.
one of his books.
Yep. Let's do it.
Perfect.
I got plenty of them.
Adam, I appreciate you coming on. I hope you had a good time.
This has been awesome, guys. Thanks for having me. I
All
really
right.
appreciate it.
We hope to have you again, maybe. Write another book.
Yeah.
Bring another
I'm
one. We
hitting
can
pause
talk
on
about
that for now.
Yeah. You do your new podcast and then we'll come back on and see how you
Yeah, that's
see
awesome.
how you
Yeah,
love it.
looking forward to it.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you for coming. We'll have you on again.
No, thank you guys for having me.
Thanks,
been
listeners.
good.
We'll see you next time.